Hey everybody, welcome to Internet Roundup. I am Chuck and that's Josh. We do the Stuff You Should Know podcast right here in this very room.
This smelly, close, humid room.
That's right. These sound panels are getting more moist.
They really are.
Every day.
What if water just dripped out of them when you squished it?
This is Internet Roundup, and what we do is round up the internet by enlightening you with some kind of fun and interesting things each week.
So let's do it.
Let's do it. You found this first thing, which I think is Neato Torpedo.
This is from Thank you. This is from the Washington Post, and it's about a long tradition that dates back to the 1950s of drugging spiders and then seeing what effect these drugs have on their web spinning abilities.
Yeah, I've seen this before. I don't know if it was the same guy. Apparently, what was the pioneer? Peter Witt, a British pharmacologist, started doing this in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Wonder if he was doing some drugs, too.
He was probably hanging out on the couch, and he's like, one for me, one for you, Mr. Spider.
Right.
And then the spider went over and made a crazy web. He's like, I just found my career.
Yeah, pretty much. So are we going to take this quiz? Are you going to quiz me?
I'm going to quiz you. We should also say it wasn't just this one guy. He inspired other researchers to try the same stuff. And NASA even came up with a computer program that could analyze a web and predict what drug the spider had been under.
I saw that. Why did NASA do that?
They had a lot of extra funding that year. I guess.
The salad days.
Yeah, right.
All right. So which one do you want to do first?
So we're going to start with the third one, I think. How about that?
Okay. Number 3.
Number 3 is that web created by unicorn blood, nicotine, Prozac, or Benzedrine? Bennies, as Jack Kerouac called them.
Okay. What were bennies? Were those uppers?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to say those are bennies.
You are right.
Really?
Ding, ding, ding. Yes.
Yes.
That spider was on bennies when it spun that web.
Look at that thing.
Okay, so how about this, dude? How about we'll go up to number 2.
Okay.
That's a pretty cool looking web, don't you think?
Yeah,
was the spider who made that web under the influence of a nice gin and tonic, marijuana, PCP, or heroin?
I'm going to go with PCP.
No, not PCP.
What is it?
It was marijuana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure Peter Witt could get his hands on PCP.
Marijuana, huh?
Yeah. I would guess that'd be hard to come by, wouldn't you? PCP, even as a researcher?
I have no idea.
Let's go to number 6, Chuck. This one is all kinds of messed up.
Okay.
Very introspective, though, if you think about it. So, was this web created by a spider under the influence of heroin, cocaine, LSD, or mescaline?
How do you give a spider mescaline?
I don't know. I guess you crush the little barrels up a lot and let it roll in it
Just
or
have
something?
them, crawl around on it. I'm going to go with mescaline.
You're right. Mescaline it is, Chuck.
Really? Interesting.
So you got 2 out of 3, which is pretty good. As Meatloaf said, that ain't bad.
So where was this? The Washington Post?
Yeah, if you want to take the full quiz, you can look up quiz, what drugs were these spiders on when they made their webs on the Washington Post.
Yes.
Pretty cool stuff.
And then next, we have a story about a woman in Oregon.
It's a little different.
Who was convicted of killing 2 men and feeding them to her pigs.
Yeah, a year apart.
Mm-hmm.
A woman named Susan Monica, who was a farmer, had a 20-acre farm that apparently featured pigs, hired a couple of handymen about a year apart, and killed each one and fed them to her pigs. That's what she was convicted of recently.
You know what kind of farm you call that?
Death farm?
Well, killing farm.
Yeah, killing farm.
I guess in Oregon they may have a different nomenclature, but and the funny part to me was, and of course none of this is funny because there were real victims involved.
You mean the hinky part?
But some of the things that were said and happened during the trial were unusual, starting with the judge that said, "It may sound harsh, but you're a cold-blooded killer."
It's a weird thing for a judge to say.
Don't you think?
Too. Yeah.
And then
it may sound harsh. I'm sorry for offending you.
Yeah.
But you're a murderer.
Right.
You're a convicted murderer.
And then some of the defense claims from this woman, she said that one of the men actually repeatedly shot himself in the head, which is probably tough to do.
I would guess so.
I don't know what forensics has to say about that, though.
Well, the forensic scientist did say that, yes, he was shot repeatedly in the head, but there's no evidence that he did it himself.
Yeah, and then the other victim, she said, I just found this guy dead, being disemboweled by my pigs, and I
First,
shot him to put him out of his misery.
exactly. But he'd been missing for a month, and when she happened upon him, he just happened to have just been started to be devoured by her pigs.
Yeah, and she helped him out.
So they found some of that guy's remains, and they analyzed it, and they said, well, this leg bone here was definitely butchered with an axe.
Yeah.
And it definitely shows signs of gnawing by an animal. But it's not enough evidence to say whether he was killed to be put out of his misery or whatever. So based on all this, her defense team is like, we're definitely going to appeal. But the woman herself seems kind of resigned to her fate.
Well, yeah, she well, first of all, one of her defense attorneys, they just said so many weird things.
Yeah.
Said, just because Susan Monica is different and strange and weird doesn't make her a murderer. So she was probably pretty odd. And even though she had a defense team, at one point she stood up to cross-examine one of the other attorneys, I think.
No, the lead investigator.
Oh, the lead
in
investigator.
the case. Yeah,
she'd try to do it herself, even though her attorneys were there.
And apparently she did. She also sent a birthday card to a buddy she met in jail.
Yeah.
And she signed it from the sweetest murderer in Jackson County.
Yeah, and then
Not
her
a
reason.
smart thing to do while you're on trial for murder.
Well, did you see her reasoning for that?
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, I just signed it in accordance with the charges I was facing.
Right.
You know? Because they called me that.
She also took out a home loan and signed it like that, too, during the trial.
Which is so strange. All right, so again, real victims, not laughing at that, but it was such an odd case. And
it really is. This was on the AP. Jury convicts Oregon farmer of killing men, feeding to pigs. That's an AP headline if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, and wasn't feeding to pigs, wasn't that sort of the way that they used to do things back in the olden days?
Yeah, pigs kind of eat anything you give to them.
Yeah, so you'll throw, I remember on the show Deadwood, they would throw bodies into the pig pens and to get rid of them.
Well, Robert Pickton, one state up, I believe he was in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. He killed people and fed them to his pigs, too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Poor pigs.
Or no, he was in Vancouver. One of the two. He was definitely in the Pacific Northwest.
Pigs are like, you think bacon tastes good. Have you ever had a thigh?
Right.
Human thigh?
But I got the impression, Chuck, that this the judge basically said you cared about your pigs more than human.
Yeah.
So I wonder if
weird.
the woman killed them to feed to her pigs.
Wow. Well, that certainly would not change anything.
Because Cuddles has a taste for flesh now, and he needs some human.
Well, she was convicted, and like you said, they're going to appeal it, but he sentenced her to at least 50 years in prison.
At least.
Because it's Oregon.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the death penalty.
Unless you want to kill yourself.
Right.
Then they'll prescribe you the pills.
Do you have anything else?
No.
All right. Thanks, everybody. This has been Internet Roundup, and we will see you next week in the Corral.